that was both overwhelming and yet deeply attractive. That you were, at the same time as you were pulled towards it, you were also filled with a sense of awe and terror and the utter mystery and otherness of what you'd heard. And this, the Mysterium Tremendus et Fascinans, is the essence of religion, of what religion is. Religion goes beyond speech, beyond thought, beyond the familiar. So it fills us with awe and dread, but also with wonder. We've been induced into a different world, a completely different world. And the experience was absolutely overwhelming to the Prophet, completely overwhelming. And he ran down the mountain where he'd been praying to go to his wife. On the way down, he saw an angel that appeared to him, and again terrified him, and raced into his wife and shaking, traumatized by what he had seen. And it was his wife who was able to comfort him, who was a source during this extraordinary time of steadfastness and understanding. She seemed almost to understand what was happening better than the Prophet himself, peace be upon him. She said, told him not to be afraid. After all, she said, you are kind and considerate to your kind. You help the poor and forlorn to bear their burdens. You strive to restore the high moral principles that your people have lost. Now, all this was happening, this extraordinary experience of overwhelming experience was directly opposed to the current Arab ethos of muruwa, which was courage and endurance, a dedicated determination to avenge any wrong done to the group, leap to the defense of kinsmen, fight and kill the enemy. This was all about victory, the victory of the self, the ego. Whereas what the Prophet had to endure was almost the loss of ego, the ability to let the divine flood into him and overwhelm the ego and take him into a completely different dimension. And then there was a long period of silence, 2 whole years, and nothing happened. And of course, the Prophet must have wondered many times, have I done something wrong? Have I destroyed this? And his wife all the time said, no, just go on with your prayers, with your frustrations, your fidelity as usual. And but there were 2 whole years of personal despair and silence. And then suddenly, there was another burst from the divine. Another burst from the divine. By the morning hours, by the night that is still, your Lord has not abandoned you. Did he not leave you orphaned and give you shelter, find you lost and guide you, find you in hunger and provide for you? As for the orphan, do not oppress him, and the one who asks for help, do not turn him away, and the grace of your Lord proclaim. Now, what is wonderful in both these extraordinary revelations he had was the divine concern for the poor, for the people at the bottom of the pyramid, people who were hungry and lost, were not able to take part in the most religious celebrations, but was essential, because one of the things that the Quran would be teaching was the importance of equality as much as we can achieve in life, and a concern for the poor, not just basking in the privileges of aristocracy and wisdom. He said, proclaim. And he did. That revelation, it must help not just the prophet who receives it, the wise man who is above most of us. It must also help the orphan and the deprived. Just as our religions must help the orphans and the deprived. And we see this every night on our television screens. The vast difference that still exists for all our concern and vaunting of our notion of equality in our societies, and about how much better things are than they used to be. But still, they're not as good as they can be. And that will be a continual reminder in the Quran to be concerned for the poor. Anybody who's ever known hunger and loneliness and oppression must refuse to inflict this pain on others. So there had to be an internal transformation, and that would become the essence of what we call Islam, the surrender of the ego. It's very hard for us to surrender our ego. Our ego governs us. Our inmost thoughts, fears are all about ourselves, our self-protection. We're almost imprisoned in the limited nature of our outlook. And yet what the Quran and what any major revelation means is that you're taking, it's an ecstasis. And ecstasis means stepping outside the self, so that you can take a longer look, just as you when you take a photograph and you want to take a whole picture. You need to step back from it, look at it, study it, and then after studying it, see what can be done practically. This became essential to the whole idea of Islam, which means surrender, the surrender of the ego. Very much present in the prostration of the body that you do in prayer. Because we learn so much from our bodies. We may not know it, but a lot of our information comes through our brains and our hearts and our minds with bodily action. And we in the West don't do that enough, I don't think. The prayers are said, but the body is not involved. And I think that is a loss for us. You do that daily in your prayers as you turn yourself towards Mecca and prostrate yourself, an outward sign of the loss of ego, the putting aside of the ego, that cries me, and cries for selfishness first. And Muslims would also have practical things to do. They had to give alms to the poor. They must cloak themselves in the virtue of compassion, performing small acts of kindness on a daily, hourly basis. And these would come down in various revelations that would come to the Prophet time after time. And very much against the current rulers of the Quraysh, for whom it was all about me and ego and greed and violence and the idea of oppression and victory. Islam meant surrender, a surrender of the ego that endlessly puts oneself first, it imprisons us